All right, Awesemo, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you with MLB Live Before Lock. We're going to be covering the 7-game main slate, or is it 6? I'm forgetting a little bit, but I am joined today by your friend and mine, the one and only Gundacker.
Okay. I got your happy belated birthday, EMac, known Wade Miley truther, as I tweeted. It must be a big week for you after last night.
Yeah, it was a little bit exciting. I was busy watching basketball, and I had hockey sweats going on, and it was all in all, it was a good day across the 3 major sports. Today we've got, of course, MMA in the mix. That'll be coming up here in a little bit. We have the MMA Live Before Lock. We're going to have NBA Live Before Lock as well. So that's why we're kind of bumped up a little earlier today. We're starting to get some of these late slate lineups, or late slate. It's hard to tell on the different. Every site was doing something different today. That seems to be the way it all operates. Draftkings had about 3 slates. Yahoo goes off every hour or whatever it is for every start time for the remainder of the slates, and Fanduel was fandueling it. Basically, they had, what did they have? An all-day slate, a 3-game early slate, a 2-game afternoon slate, 4-game slate starting in an hour, or a 5-gamer starting in an hour, a 2-game 6 o'clock slate, and then a 7-game 7 o'clock slate. Trying to write content for this, not fun. You guys survived without me though last weekend, eh?
It was rough. It was hard. I wasn't sure at times. It got cold, but we made it. Happy late birthday, by the way.
It was fun. Yeah, it was. That was a big one, a milestone, if you will. I was off doing a half marathon in Canton, Ohio, at the home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I should have brought my medal. I'll have to remember to do that for the next show. They so for the half marathons, you get a finisher's medal, right? And it's usually something with local flair to it. But they gave a giant championship Hall of Fame ring to everybody, so you can put it on your hand like it's an actual ring. But I'll have to bring that because it's like even bigger than an actual. It's like refrigerator Perry size. So that was a lot of fun. Got to see some friends. I hadn't been anywhere in many, many months. We drove out there, so followed all the protocols. Everybody had their shots. So it was a good time. Good time. Are you ready to get into today's action here?
Yeah, I thought you'd never ask.
So let's take a peek here. We will go, let's see, the no-hitters. Interesting. We've already had 4. As you mentioned there, Wade Miley, of all people, got one last night.
I was thinking about the no-hitters, and we have 4, and then the Mad Bum asterisk, and they're all lefties except Giolito. So maybe lefties is the new meta. So
the other thing that's interesting, Dan Plesac was the starter for 2 of them, the opposing starter. And someone in our chat said they saw that on Twitter. I wasn't my comment. I can't remember who they said it was, but that was something that somebody had put out on Twitter. So kind of interesting there, I guess. I don't know. Fewer home runs, definitely something is up with the ball in the opposite direction of what it had been. Allegedly previously. This could be more. We know there's 5 more stadiums that have humidifiers now, or humidors. So I don't know what to take from this. I suspect we'll see the ball start to fly out when it warms up some, but probably not as much as we did the last 2 years. One with the juice ball, and then last year with the universal DH. So we'll have to see. Brian Walsh says, I was driving that half marathon and taking pictures. No. I was walking. You can kind of tell because at times I kept putting them into the Slack chat every time I got them out. You could tell it was about every 15 or 16 minutes. So 3.5 hours. I walked the half marathons, but basically walk as fast as you can for 3.5 hours.
Did you catch any of the no last night, the Cincinnati and Cleveland game?
No, I was literally just focused on basketball. I mean, I was playing and I could tell something was going on, but then I'm like, do I look? Do I not look?
So it was scoreless going into the ninth. Zach Plesac pitched to Jim himself.
Oh, and I said scoreless. Dan Plesac. Dan Plesac is his uncle. I'm sorry, Zach Plesac.
Yeah. Well,
I'm old now, Gundacker. I'm old.
Yeah, it's okay. The Indians brought in Clase, who is nasty. There's like 102 cutter, and it was scoreless. So I was like, man, the Reds may not score here. They ended up scoring because he just didn't have it. But there was a range of outcomes that Miley could have pitched a no into the 10th and lost because of the man on second rule. And I hate that rule, so I was wanting that to happen just to see the world burn.
I completely agree with you. It's sort of like baseball does not know how to handle these outcomes. It's like they make up the rules, or not make them up, but they set the rules, and then they seem shocked every time something weird happens, like a tie in the All-Star game. What do we do now? Oh my gosh, we should make the All-Star game count for home field advantage in the World Series. Complete overcorrection. Yeah. Oh my God, the game's too slow. Instead of implementing various other rules that will help that, we'll just shorten the double headers. Right? It's like a man on second, no less extra inning games. Okay, then just be ready for the record to get rewritten. NFL's going to have to figure this out themselves too, because they're going to, if and when they go to 18 games, or pardon me, 17 games, that'll be an issue. But let's jump in here today. I see someone asking, is the Yankee game going to play? It should. As far as we know, it looks like it's going to clear around 4:30 or 5. That was the last report I saw about an hour ago. This was kind of a known commodity going into it. The one thing that you always want to check out with the weather conditions is you want to understand what is each team doing the next day, and are they division rivals? And in this case, this is like, there's no easy makeup game. So their choices were doubleheader tomorrow, but then that after the game, that's a travel day for the teams, or they wait a little bit later today and it should play clean. So they decided to wait. And there's also not as many fans to worry about either from that standpoint. I just wish they would, say hours before, hey, we're going to wait until X, because we had that other team that they started through, did 2 or 3 outs, and then they had to postpone the game. Then we had one that postponed it, and there was no rain already this year. That we call that the Washington Nationals effect. Let's jump in. Today's free content: the NBA player projections, the NHL player stacks and rankings. So that's the top stacks tool. You get the MMA fighter projections today, and then for baseball, you get the main slate ownership. So we'll be referring to that. Today, we have the sponsor of the show is the Awesemo Odd Shopper. It's part of the Awesemo network. We'll talk a little bit about them, but let's jump on in here. First game, Seattle at Texas. Looks like it's going to be in the upper 80s. That means the roof will be open. Looks like a 15 to 17 mile an hour wind out to left. They're in their new stadium. They do have the option of putting on the roof. So this is not the same jet stream or reverse jet stream that we had for many years in Arlington. So keep that in mind, but we don't know how this stadium is going to play with a lot of heat and or the wind, because last year in the abbreviated season where they only had 30 home games, they only opened the roof 2 or 3 times, because in the summer, the whole plan is to keep it closed. So we'll have to see what happens there, but I would assume it would play a little bit more like a hitter's park. We have Eric Swanson going against Texas, 4.6 implied run total for Texas. And then you have Kohei Arihara, who is going for Texas. He is coming out of the Japanese league, former teammates with Shohei Ohtani, and he is not much of a strikeout guy by any stretch. Feels like we got some offenses here with the 9 implied run total. Take it away, Gundacker.
Yeah, so it looks like Swanson is listed, and he's probably just an opener. He does his 2 appearances this year, 2 innings. Looks like LJ Newsome might get some work today as well. And Kohei Arihara has also not been good. So because of that, I probably can eliminate considering pitchers from this game. And it's probably one of those spots where we don't overexert research on the pitchers, at least on the Mariners side, because you really don't know. You're going to get 2 innings here, 2 innings there, and you're just probably going to play the elements here. The Rangers, not a fun team to target. long term, but because of the roof being open, the temperatures could be pushing 90 degrees, making it a positive hitting environment against average to below average pitching. So because of that, I will have interest in some of these Rangers bats. We did get that Rangers lineup. I like 1 through 4 right off the bat. 1 through 5 could be a nice little stretch for me as well. And I'd be fine with running it back here with Mariners. This is not a fun game to stack pre-flop because of the lack of name value, but Ari Hara, definitely somebody you can attack. I definitely prefer this year to attack him with righties, allowing a lot of power, 55.3% hard contact to righties so far with a 3.29 home run per 9. That is not good. He also parlays that with a near 27% line drive rate. So he is allowing a lot of barrels, and Mitch Haniger, probably somebody that projects extremely, extremely well for a homer. I think he's one of the top guys in my bomb rating model, the bomb detector, and Ty France. I can get behind him as well. And this is really, I'm going to start plucking names from this game. It's really a full stackable spot for me. And it's just one of those, I wish there was a upper price pitcher to make these cheaper bats feel like they had more utility. But I'll be on this game just because it's sloppy hitting, sloppy pitching, and hot weather.
Yeah, and that's just to push the point home. Ari Hara has only a 6.5% swinging strike rate right now. He's only faced 107 hitters, but that's very similar to what he was doing in Japan. He was not known for strikeouts, more for control. Didn't give up an abundance of power, but as we've said, Japan, the league is very similar to AAA, maybe even a tick above that. So I'm surprised that someone with his skill sets came over here and got a contract, but we'll see. I want to say he's 27 or 28, so it's not. We know what we're getting. It's not like a rocket-armed phenom by any stretch here. I absolutely agree with you on Mitch Haniger. He missed a year and a half. Basically, had that got a pitch hit him in the junk and ruptured a testicle. So he was recovering for that missed last season and such, but he's back and he has been leading off. So that's pretty solid. We do have a super chat here from A. Dean. This one is directed for you, Gundacker. It says, "It's great that Awesemo hired my son Gundacker. I've raised him since birth to be the man he is today. So proud. So proud."
I hate A. Dean so much.
All right. That's a good one. You hate him? I love him now. I love him. All right, let's see our next game here. We've got 6 more to go. Going to be in the upper 50s, low 60s in Baltimore today. I'm going to set you up, and then I got to go get a repairman. My dog's going to go nuts. We have Garrett Richards on the mound going against Zach Loher. Can you take the reins from here? I will be right back, Tyler.
Gotcha. Orioles and Red Sox. Red Sox implied run total 4.9. Orioles 4.2. So Garrett Richards so far this season, 28 innings of sample size, and Sierra sitting about 4.5, an xFIP at 4.33. Swing and strike rate is encouraging, 11.6%, but he's not been able to piece it together elsewise. 11% walk rate, a 1.5 whip. So he's going to allow traffic. And on the Orioles side, Zach Lothar, this is a name I'm not familiar with, but what I got for him, pitch-wise, he throws a 92-mile-an-hour average fastball 67% of the time with a backup changeup at almost 17% and a curveball almost 17%. And both of those are very, very low velo pitches, changeup at 86 and a curveball at 77. So not a whole lot there for me to be running from. They're not graded especially high pitch-wise either when it comes to the weighted created stat. He only has 1 inning of work so far this season, so this may be more of a bullpen game for the Orioles as well, which all bets are off again. Go after the Red Sox offense. They've been really, really good to start the year. It's still going to be a plus park, even despite just 60-degree temperatures. So Red Sox will be somebody that I'll be targeting. I do like Verdugo, JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, and Rafael Devers is probably my favorite 4-piece. Marwin Gonzalez drew the leadoff spot yesterday with Kike Hernandez being injured. I would expect more of the same, a little switchy at the top of the lineup. And then Garrett Richards, if I want to pick on Garrett Richards, I probably want to pick on him with a lefty with a little bit of a swing. Maybe Cedric Mullins gets into him in that leadoff spot. If we isolate Richards' righties information so far this season, he has been serviceable with a 22.4% K rate and a 250 average with just a 0.73 home run per nine, sustainable with a 25% hard contact rate. That's really, really low. However, his xFIP is at 5.21, so probably a product of a little lucky BABIP. So maybe the Orioles aren't one of those teams that you want to run to, but maybe don't avoid some one-offs here and there, because Richards does have room for regression to righties. But because of the lack of pitching on this slate, like it's like Lance Lynn, maybe Javier, there's not a deep pool of pitching. Maybe you chip in a chair some Richards for 15, 16 DKP, and value becomes really, really subjective because if 16 to 20 fantasy points is a range of outcome for Garrett Richards today, and he's exceeded that in his last 2 starts, then you probably consider that as a top 3 score on this slate. So I do think I'll have Richards in the pool. It's not a high level of confidence, but it will be in the pool, but so will some Orioles bats, and I'll definitely be on the Red Sox stack.
Yep, I think that's absolutely a good way to go. Thank you for covering on that one. I do want to shout out here to Zach Lothar, who has the same birthday as me. So he turned 25 on Saturday. We have a little bit more on him. He spent 3 years pitching in the NCAA. He was with Xavier. He spent most of his last 2 years as a reliever there. He was drafted in the, second round of the 2017 draft. Currently, he is the 11th best prospect in the Orioles system. He has 148 innings at Double-A. That was 2 years ago in 2019. He obviously did not get any minor league experience last year because there was no minor league season. And as Gundacker mentioned, this will be his second appearance, his first start. So nothing dramatic stands out with his numbers. He's probably just going to be a back of the rotation kind of guy. He does have decent control, but that's about all I got for him.
Did you say 11th best prospect for the Orioles?
Yes.
My goodness.
I wanted Yeah, that was courtesy of MLB starting pitchers page here. So, yeah, it's the 11th best prospect for the Orioles.
Oh, no.
Charge! That's what that means.
Fire him up.
All right, let's move along here to our next one. Let me get to the right screen here. We've got a fun one here. It's going to be the Toronto Blue Jays going into Houston, taking on the Astros. Fun part for this one here is that we have, let me see, you had mentioned Christian Javier as a potential pitching option. I agree with that. I'm not particularly worried on DraftKings about the pricing because there's a lot of discounted bats here and there that's going to facilitate us getting to the expensive, though not so expensive pitchers, as well as the good hitters if we would like. Profiling, here, let me see, did I cover that one? Yes. So Yahoo is kind of interesting today. So we, of course, did a bunch of stuff with them yesterday. Shout out to 1-800-EDDIE, our head of technology behind the scenes, a very good NBA DFS player. He took down the NBA tournament over there, the flagship tournament. So that was a nice one. I like to play a little baseball over there as well when I have the chance. They have a very unique salary algorithm there, and today they have Jordan Alvarez at 23 in a lefty-lefty matchup. Gamers are going to stay away from that. He's phenomenal against lefties. I like going against Mats. The Astros are just loaded for bear against lefties. We know the usual suspects, but I did want to call out some of the strategy there by going with Jordan Alvarez on Yahoo. It's going to be, I would be surprised if he's more than 10 or 15%. What would you like to do? Start off with the Orioles hitters, and then you can take us through Javier.
Blue Jays, so Blue Jays hitters, I think there'll be kind of a leverage opportunity today because I do think Javier is kind of a best of the limited worst. I don't say it's the bad. I think Lance Lynn will supersede, will supersede him in ownership maybe, but I still think Javier is probably pre-flop a top 3 talented pitcher on the slate. So because of his ownership, people will probably shy away from Blue Jays exposure. Blue Jays definitely have a lot of strikeout potential, particularly against righties. Looking at this projected lineup, only 2 guys under a 20% K rate in the last 2 years against righties. So there is strikeout potential here. Blue Jays still carry some fear in that lineup. I've kind of been tracking how they've done on the road versus at home. Yesterday they put up 4 runs, is what it is. I will never like completely unselect the Blue Jays here, but I'm probably more on the Javier side of things, and then just like lean on the Blue Jays as leverage opportunities. I will definitely be there on the Astros. Stack, however, looks like another situation. Roof open, Texas, going to be 80 degrees. Steven Matz is somebody I love picking on with righties. The Astros look like they sat down Michael Brantley today, and they're going to throw in Mlb Dfs. So get one more righty in this lineup, just 2 lefties, top to bottom. So it's going to be a tough stretch for Matz to get through. So far this season, a 509 xFIP to righties with a near 2 home run per 9, and that home run per 9 has not dipped below 1.5 in the last 4 seasons of sample size against righties. So there's plenty of potential power to be had against a low strikeout, powerful Astros team stock full of righties. This is probably going to be a spot where Alex Bregman destroys my home run model against Steven Matz, and then guys like Altuve. You mentioned Yordan Alvarez. I definitely think that's one of the sneakier takes, is that Alvarez has projected really well against lefties in his time in the big leagues, batting over 300 and slugging over 600. If you're a lefty versus lefty sample size guy, maybe you need more sample size to buy into that, but I'm not going to let the reverse platoon eliminate him from my stacks. I'm going to be full on for the Astros here, top to bottom, then cherry picking Blue Jays, and then Javier. I don't love necessarily picking on Blue Jays, but I do think pitching today, value is subjective. I think we're just going out here for raw points. Any pitcher I think can give me 20 plus DKP, it's going to be in the pool. And I think Javier is absolutely one of those guys. And I also think he's been a little bit unlucky. His a little bit lucky, but I still don't think he's a bad pitcher. ERA at 1.75, but Sierra's at 3.5 and the xFIP's at 4. So he might go backwards because his ground ball rate is pretty low and his fly ball rate is pretty high, but he's still got one of the better strikeout stuff on the slate. So maybe begrudgingly I'll have more of an Astros pitcher than I want to, but it's slim pickings.
Yeah, and that's the thing that just makes everything interesting in DFS is we're all dealt the same hand. We've got the same options. This one, I do want to mention, looks like the roof will be open here. It's going to be in the low 80s, and they too have a strong wind going out to right field. So not necessarily the best pitching environment, but we do know that Toronto does strike out at a higher than optimal or higher than league average, and that's something that we can look to target here with Christian Javier. Is there any interest in you going to Matz? A little bit of above average strikeout guy, decent control, keeps the bases clean, does give up some power to righties. That's no surprise. I feel like he really would need to be like 6,800 on DK for me to consider him as an SP2.
Yeah, I'm probably not. I will say that his hard contact rate to righties is at under 26%, which is a career low, and somehow he's still holding a near 2 home run per 9 right now. So maybe he's on the unlucky side when it comes to home run to fly ball percentage. Also could be a victim of his home park. But strikeout wise, I just don't really see a lot of strikeouts in this Astros lineup. I mean, Garrett Cole couldn't muster but 3 or 4 strikeouts against the Astros. So I'm not expecting a guy like Steven Matz, who is by DNA more of a contact pitcher. So I just don't really see upside at this price point, and the floor is really not that high for me to be going after it as well. If you play Matz and he does well, he probably had a lot of contact outs and maybe went 7 innings and maybe picked up 5 strikeouts, something like that. And at the end of the day, maybe that got you there. But pre-flop, I'm just not that inspired.
All right. I want to remind you guys that we have the Awesemo Podcast Network. If you're not able to watch our favorite Awesemo shows on YouTube, almost all of our Awesemo shows are also going to be available on the Awesemo Podcast Network. We have a channel for every sport, and we also have the main channel, which consolidates everything. So if you head on over to awesemo.com/podcast, you can see all of our podcasts, as well as all of the different platforms where you can get them. And that's pretty much every podcast platform that you can think of. Here's the bonus. You leave a 5-star review and you will be entered into a drawing that will happen once a week for the next year that will enable the winner each week to get 1 week of Awesemo premium content for free. Just leave your Awesemo username, Twitter handle, or email address, and we will get your prize to you. Game number 4. The Chicago White Sox at the Kansas City Royals, low 70s for this one. There was a little bit of precipitation in the area today. That should be clearing in time for the game. I see Greg's talking about my dog. No, I've got the irrigation people are here. Fortunately, my wife just got home, which also is the reason why the dog's barking, but she has to keep turning on and off the master water because they're trying to figure out where a leak is. So it's not fun. My apologies for that. I knew as soon as we had the show, they would come exactly during this time, even though it was half a day window. But there we are. So here we are back to this one. We've got a 10 to 12 mile an hour wind out to left. We're going to want to look at the pitching here. Lance Lynn, one of the better options on the slate. We have a 3.8 implied run total here for the Kansas City Royals. Daniel Lynch going on the other side there. That gives the Chicago White Sox a 4.8 implied run total here. Let's talk about Lance Lynn just a little bit, and I want to talk about his strikeout prop here. So I mentioned the odd shopper. We have his strikeout prop here, and I can drop that in this link into the chat. But the interesting thing on Lance Lynn is his under. You can go find the number at 6.5 on some sites. However, his over you can find as low as 5.5 on some sites. So this is where we're saying you're shopping for the odds. You're looking for the line that you want. Now, a couple of the sites have the line juiced heavier on the under, the over when it's 5.5. So that, you can say you could lay 167 to win $100, or you could go with the 6.5 for the over mark and over on Fanduel, and you can just lay 106. So you shop the odds, figure out what you want. But in baseball, pretty much all the lines are going to appear to be about the same because everything is just going to be in half increments. And it's not like basketball where there's tons of scoring. There's not going to be tons of strikeouts. So a lot of the lines are going to appear the same. But if you have a strong lean, if you can look at a lineup and say, I think there's more or less strikeouts in this lineup than what we're seeing with this pitcher. If you think there's a chance, the pitcher gets pulled early or something like that, you can shop these lines and find your little edges here. And that's the best way you can make your bankroll last longer and or make money by just shopping the odds, because that's just pure profit for you, or profit potential. You still have to monetize it, but would you rather pay $120 to win 100, or would you rather pay $108 to win 100? That's 12% difference. That's a big number. Talk to us about Lance Lynn here. I think he's going to be your ace of the day.
Yeah,
depending on how you feel about Kershaw.
It looks like Lance Lynn is projected to be the highest on pitcher. Last I looked, we had him at 38%. So my only pushback on Lance Lynn would be lack of confidence in pitch count. He did come back from the IL in that last start and only threw 68 pitches. Will they be confident in him going back to the 90 to 100 range on start number 2? Or does he sit around 80-ish as they stretch maybe 10-15? With that said, it's not like he missed a ton of time for the stretch to go all the way back down. But that's probably my back of my mind worry there, is what his pitch count might be versus what his ownership might be. And do I think that that suspicion is worth the leverage of going the other way? Because I definitely want Lance Lynn, but at 40 plus, if he approaches 40+%, I do start to wonder on this slate, is that an opportunity at leverage to get on the other side? Royals definitely offer some strikeout potential, and this is a spot earlier this year where I was like more on the Royals than Lance Lynn, and Lance Lynn went CGSO and made me look like a fool. So will the curtain call that one? We'll see. But if he's unleashed, if he's got all the bullets, 90, 100 bullets in the chamber, definitely one of the most talented pitchers on the slate with one of the highest upsides. So there's no pushback in that regard. The only question mark for me would be pitch count. He's going against Daniel Lynch, who I've been doing a little bit of research on while we were talking about Lynn. Lynch is 5.3 on DK. He has only pitched 4.2 innings. He hasn't been able to develop much from a minor league standpoint because the minor leagues have been shut down. But Fangraphs grades his fastball 60 out of 60 and his curveball 50 out of 50. So almost maximum rating there, which means there is a potential in my mind that at 5K-ish, I can get 10 to 15 fantasy points as an SP2 and maybe get away with that one. The pushback on that is I do enjoy White Sox against lefties. And this lineup's looking a little bit more like the perennial lefty matching lineup that we like to see. Tim Anderson, Moncada, Abreu, Yerman Mercedes. Like, this is a nasty lineup, and I've got essentially everyone but Danny Mendick batting 270 plus against lefties in the last 2 years. So I probably don't get that creative here, but if this was a different team, I might take a shot on Daniel Lynch, but I'll definitely be interested in watching this perfect graded curveball today. But I guess I don't play him. I will be on some White Sox stacks just because they're facing a lefty. With the Royals, I don't think I'll stack them, but I never unselect guys like Whit Merrifield. Salvi's a professional hitter at the catcher spot, and it's usually a shallow position. But I'm probably not going to get to the Royal stack today. So give me some Lynn. Right now I'm on the fence. I might end up just matching the field on Lynn, a couple of Royals one-offs, and then the White Sox stack. And that's kind of where I'm at on this one.
All right. I do want to mention, I think why am I blanking? The catcher, Sal Perez. I think he's got some pretty good. I've never asked you on your take. What is your take on BVP? Because I know he's got some good stuff. He is 6 for 16 with 2 home runs and a double against Lance Lynn. Odd in a righty-righty matchup, because Lynn's usually pretty good against righties.
Yeah, I'm not really. I'm not the biggest anti BVP guy, but it's not really part of my process. I do have a tab in my spreadsheet for BVP, but really the only time I ever get there is just out of curiosity. I'll go and see if there's like crazy ownage numbers. Like, for instance, today Mookie Betts has 4 homers on Bundy and 36 at bats. So something like that sticks out. I'm like, that's interesting, because Bundy better against righties than lefties. So fun numbers like that. If there's like a 40 at bat sample size, I might play with it. But for the most part, it's not part of the process. It's just more for fun.
Exactly, and it's just sort of a way to look at it and say, oh, he profiles well against these types of pitches, and you're like, oh, look, we do have a little example of that, but you can't tell for sure. Like, I love Freddie Freeman today going against Vince Velasquez. He's 10 for 29 against him. This is a 345 average. He only has 3 extra base hits. Come on, Vince gives up home runs like they're candy at Halloween, and Freddie Freeman doesn't have one yet. So it's sort of like, how much do you infer to this? It's for fun. I like the way that you put it for that. Anything else you want to mention from this game?
No, the Royals bullpen's been pretty below average. Overall body of work over 4 Sierra, 1.4 whip, and a home run per 9 over 2. So White Sox should have quality opportunities for 9 innings.
All right. Merrill Kelly going into New York, taking on the Metropolitans, who will have Joey Lucchesi pitching for them. These guys both like to give up some power. I was a little bit shocked to see just a 3.7 implied run total for the Mets going against, pardon me, am I reading that right? For Arizona going against Lucchesi. That really caught me off guard, because they're putting out a decent number of righties here. They do have Christian Walker back. He has some power. Asdrubal Cabrera's adequate. Eduardo Escobar, decent enough. But I guess when you're looking at Tim LeCastro and Carson Kelly and some of those guys, they don't really have nearly as much power. Does that make you have any interest in Lucchesi? Because I was about ready to give a full-throated endorsement here of Arizona, and I'm not that excited by their lineup.
No,
I can't get to Lucchesi, but I don't
yeah.
care about Arizona at this point.
Nah, I can get behind some D-backs stacks. LaCastro, like I said, you look at the average, you never really want to play that, but he's the fastest guy in the league. And if he gets on, one, he's a stolen base threat, or he'll stretch a single into a double. But also, if he gets on, it's a positive thing for the hitter behind him, because pitchers are so distracted by having the fastest guy in the league on base, and you can get some mistake pitches. So a fun little play at the top of the lineup for me there. Full stack is hard to feel warm and fuzzy about, but I would not be stunned if 1 through 5 put together a solid accumulation of fantasy points. So I do like that. The Lucchesi crime family, don't come after me, but I'm probably not going to be that enamored with him. He is holding a 26% K rate to righty so far this year, but that xFIP is at 4.38. The average allowed is at 3.24, and the home run per nine at nearly 2. It's only 10 innings of sample size, so regression is coming, but regressing to what? We don't have a ton of information with sample size unless we go all the way back to 2019, where he had 163 innings of sample size, and he was still a power allowed guy to righties, and almost a 4.5 xFIP with a 40.5% hard contact rate. So even if he regresses, he doesn't look like the DNA of his body of work is going to be great versus righties, but solid against lefties. But this lineup is not going to present many lefties. 7,300 though, maybe there's a chip in a chair for 15 DKP. You get there. Fanduel 5.5K. I'm probably not going to push the issue there. I really want that 6-inning opportunity, maybe a win. So I do like the D-backs. I also don't mind the Mets to an extent. Yesterday, Lindor and Jeff McNeil argued over a rat or a raccoon. I don't know if you heard about that.
No.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. Oh, well, what happened in the middle of the game, there was a kerfluffle in the tunnel, and all the players left the dugout to break up a alleged fight between Lindor and Jeff McNeil. And then when they went to the media, they claimed they were arguing over whether or not something was a raccoon or a rat or something like that. It was just a troll reasoning for a fight that obviously isn't the reason. But sometimes fights like that can be the spark at this team where they need to go. And Merrill Kelly against lefties so far this year has allowed a near 300 average to lefties and a over 300 to righties. So maybe this is a get right spot for the Mets here. We'll see what this lineup comes out right now. I got McNeil and Lindor projected 1 and 2. So maybe they'll try to one up each other. Lindor finally got on the board yesterday with a big swing. So maybe this is the momentum there. Because this team, you look at these names 1 through 5 EMac, I think these are too talented of names to be slumping in the way they are. So I'm probably going to be at the slot machine until it pays out. And a guy like Merrill Kelly, especially the lefty side, I definitely want to be there before everyone else comes back.
So Merrill Kelly is an interesting story, and I'll tell this just real quick. So he was drafted not once, not twice, but 3 times. So he got drafted out of high school, decided to go to college, got drafted 2 years later after he finished up at a community college, and said, nah, no thanks. I'm going to go back to Arizona, or I'm going to go to Arizona State, because he was being drafted 37th round, 22nd round. There's not much signing money in that. So ultimately he worked his way up to the 8th round. He then pitched for about 5 years in the minors for Tampa Bay, never made it beyond the Durham Bulls. So in 2014, they were just like, nah, we're good. We've seen enough. So he went and played in the Dominican Winter League, and then spent 4 years in the KBO. And then in his age 30 season, Arizona said, hey, why don't you come to spring training with us? Let's see what we can put together here. So he's 30 this year. He'll be 31 in October. So we know exactly what we're getting with him. I mean, perseverance is a great story and all of that, but he's not really someone you want to trust pitching unless it's in the right matchup, usually with the humidor in full effect with the roof closed in Chase Field. That is not tonight. The Mets are a much better team. So sometimes people start to get associated a decent pitch or a name with that. Oh, this is good results. This is not the time to be employing him. There will be times later. There will be times on late slates. We're better off when he's at home or when he's in San Francisco for that one. All right, 2 to go here. Reminder, right after us at 4 o'clock, we have the MMA Live Before Lock show, which will be followed at 5 by the NBA Deeper Dive, and then at 6 until 7, the NBA Live Before Lock. Enjoy. We're going to have a lot more content coming right after us. We've got the Phillies and Vince Velasquez going into Atlanta, taking on the Bravos. It's going to be around 70 degrees at first pitch, slight breeze out to left, nothing to worry about here. We have Ian Anderson. Feels like I don't get many slates with Ian Anderson on him. He's a talented young up-and-coming pitcher. I've got him in the Dynasty League where I joined with one Team McBee. He was one of the keepers I inherited here. He's about the only good keeper I inherited. Never take over a dynasty team. You're always in for a world of hurt and slow improvement. But we can look at Anderson here at 8,900. The Phillies have just a 4.0 implied run total. Bryce Harper is in the lineup and back and somewhat healthy, it sounds like, after missing a few games. They also have Gene Segura, who's off the injured list. And then looks like we have Brad Miller at a $2,900 discount. I'm okay with playing him just for that position flexibility and the cheap salary. I suspect I'll find him in a few of my lineups. Maybe some Alex Bohm at 3,200 on DK, but they're getting a pretty hefty discount, which means that's a lot of respect that's being given by the DK algorithm to Ian Anderson. How do you want to handle the hurlers in this one? And where does Anderson rank compared to Lance Lynn? We'll get to Clayton Kershaw here in a minute, and Christian Javier for you.
So Anderson definitely has the metrics to be in consideration because of this slate. There's not a ton. I could probably put 5 names on the board and probably just stick with those guys. Anderson definitely there because his swinging strike rate nearly 13%, xFIP Sierra below 4. The ERA is kind of where it should be in terms of what the metrics are telling us. You see some of these Phillies names, you get a little bit scared. There's no Reese Hoskins today. That allowed Gene Segura to get bumped up in the 2 spot. The average in this Phillies lineup against righties a little bit elevated collectively. So it's not a warm and fuzzy spot. So it's probably just one of those percentile range of outcomes where 8,900 on DK, how often is that going to get me 18 to 25 DKP? I do think that the range of outcomes is high enough that I got to have some, but it's probably somebody I'll be leaning on maybe 20, 25% as a cap and see if I actually touch that. Strikeout wise, it's a fine spot. It's not uber elite. I do think the bottom 3, Brad Miller, Odubel Herrera, and Velasquez himself, like those should be strikeout the side lanes for him. So he'll be in the mix here, but I'd be lying to say I wouldn't have some of these Phillies bats just because of how the chop house can get. So I do like that. And then running it back with Velasquez here, somebody that has done extremely well against lefties so far, suspiciously well, considering his historical splits against lefties. Usually a guy that allows nearly 270 plus average and a lot of power so far this year, a 15% walk rate, but a 176 average and no bombs, and the hard contact has been under 30%. So 18 innings of sample size, I gotta project regression eventually. There's only 2 lefties that'll be facing Freeman, and Albie's Freeman's on a skid, but he has been as good as he's been against lefties. That's how bad he's been against righties so far. 5.76 xFIP, but a near 300 average and a 5 home run per 9 against righties. Super sustainable. So the Braves are just kind of, I feel like every slate the Braves become one of the top owned stacks, and their success rate maybe not as high as their ownership always is, because Freeman usually brings it down, but Acuna is in another great spot to lead off and do really, really well. But you got to pay for him. He's not cheap. 5.6 on DK, but one of those power bats with stolen base potential to give you that elevated floor. So I'll be on the Brave stacks, a 5.1 implied run total. I'm not scared of VV, and I'm not really scared of the bullpen to an extent. So give me some Brave stacks and a couple of these Phillies one-offs. Bryce Harper, definitely somebody that projects decent well for a guy that can not be. Anderson has allowed some power to lefty so far, so probably Bryce Harper as my favorite one-off from the Phillies.
All right, we have one to go. I'm going to use this opportunity to tell you guys 2 more ways where you can win some Awesemo premium content for free. We told you about leaving the 5-star review on the podcast, any podcast network that we're out there. You can leave more than one. You're going to get put in the drawing there. Just make sure to put in your Twitter handle or your Awesemo username so we have a way to contact you. We also have the Awesemo avatar promotion here. So you guys have probably seen the avatar all over the DFS leaderboards. It's for good reason, because if you have our avatar on your DFS profile, you'll win a free month of Awesemo Plus when you place in the top 3 of any GPP of 5,000 or more people. That's the only requirement, 5,000 or more people. If it's the dime, the nickel, the quarter, you still get it. I like to live in the pocket change contest. I took second earlier this week in an MLB contest out of 14,392 people for my rousing $80. But it was fun. I went and looked, like, how many people did I beat? Oh my God. That's a lot, but that's one way you can do it. The other way, tonight and any night, the Toronto Raptors are playing. We do have the Fred Van Elite Fan Club contest. I'm going to drop that link into chat. If you win that contest, that's over there on DK. It's a regular NBA contest. I have to play Fred Van Vliet or his direct backup. So tonight that'll be Malachi Flynn. But if you win that contest, only 175 people are in that. You get 1 free month of Awesemo Premium contest if you have content if you have the avatar as well. So I just gave one out to an existing subscriber yesterday. He reached out to me through Slack, and I'd been helping him out a little bit with Fantasy Crunch. And he's like, oh my God, I jumped in this contest and I won. I said, well, let's get you 30 free months or 30 free days. Sorry, 30 free months. Sorry, Tom. No. 30 free days. Last game here, we have the battle for LA, the battle for Anaheim, whatever we want to call it here. We have the 2 Los Angeles squads squaring off. That is a huge bump for the Dodgers because now they get to have the designated hitter. And even though Jock Peterson's now in Chicago and Cody Bellinger's dealing with that hairline fracture in his left leg, they still have an incredibly deep lineup. So that's very helpful to them. Going to be a tough row to hoe for Dylan Bundy. 4.7 implied run total here for the Dodgers. On the other side, we have Clayton Kershaw. He is not Clayton effing Kershaw, but he is still Clayton, probably one of the best 3 pitchers on this slate. Kershaw. The Angels have just a 3.9 implied run total here. Again, this is not the vintage Kershaw of old, who was, what did he win? 3 Cy Young awards and all his other accolades and hardware, but he's still pretty darn good. How do you want to handle the pitching? Well, then we'll talk hitting, and then chat. Of course, we're going to get you guys the home run calls, the stat calls, and the pitching calls of the day. But I have a feeling this will be one of the top 3 pitchers for you here in this game.
Man, the Dodgers are on a little bit of a skid. They're 2-8 in their last 10, 6-14 in their last 20. So they would love vintage Kershaw to make an appearance tonight. And last night things got out of control pretty quick as well. Metrically, he's as sound as any pitcher on the slate, probably the best underlying metrics out of anybody, but the matchup kind of feels like you downgrade a little bit. However, strikeout-wise, Ohtani is at nearly a 30% K rate against lefties so far in his career. And guys like Upton, Jared Walsh, I mean, some of the better Angels bats are susceptible to decay from southpaw. So I do think there's a chance that Clayton Kershaw, even if he musters just 2025, could be a top 3 optimal pitcher. So I will get there on him because of the matchup. Like I do feel like if you told me Lance Lynn would have 100 pitches, I'd probably rank Lance Lynn above Kershaw. But because I'm not 100% certain on that, I'm kind of wishy-washy. And then Kershaw coming off a game where he didn't get out the first inning. It's been a rocky road. There's been a couple of flashes of greatness from Kershaw this year, and then a couple of, oh boy, that was not great. So the last 2 appearances, Kershaw didn't get out the first inning, and then the game before he drops 33. So a range of outcomes with a floor that could be negative and a ceiling that could be 30 plus as the nuts on this slate. So he'll be in my pool for sure. Probably will be a top 3 owned pitcher for me just because of lack of options. On the Dylan Bundy side of things, you mentioned Dodgers picking up the DH. Bundy's kind of one of those platoon guys where he usually projects better strikeout wise against the righties, but this year he's been holding his own against lefties, a 26% K rate against lefties, looking like a career best so far, and he's going to throw strikes. So the Dodgers, like I said, have that household name, but I mean, I know BVP is kind of a taboo subject, but hot streaks, cold streaks also could be taboo. Like I mentioned, 4-16 in their last 20, 2-8 in their last 10. The Dodgers are kind of skidding here, so maybe Dylan Bundy slides by here with a 20 burger, and that's enough to kind of get you there. Mookie Betts did hit a late homer off of one of the mop up guys, but before that, it was a whole lot of nothing out of the Dodgers. So if you believe in talent and believe in getting right, I can't mention that I want to play the Mets and not mention that I want to play the Dodgers to get right. They're just too talented to not be a team to take shots on. But I think if I'm running 150, I probably put Bundy in the pool and maybe cap him at 10%. So kind of hedge both sides of this one. But I'll have Kershaw for sure. I'll have to meditate on Kershaw being 1 or 2 in my exposure. But I definitely think the projected lineup for the Angels does present enough strikeouts against lefties. I got Iglesias, Suzuki, and David Fletcher all at 11% or less K rates, but the rest of the lineup is almost a 25 to 27% average K rate to lefty. So I'll play both sides of that.
Well, I mean, and a lot of that's weighted on Justin Upton at 34% over his last 175 matchups against Southpaws. You've got Shohei Ohtani, he can hold his own against lefties, but he strikes out 30% of the time there. And then depending on Ward or Lagares are not great either. One of them will probably make the lineup. Suzuki doesn't strike out, but he doesn't walk either. So he's kind of like the original Willens Astudio, who took it to that next level where he doesn't ever strike out or walk. But in any event, all right. So top stacks, I think it's going to be Houston up there, probably Atlanta. You want to feather in anybody else?
Definitely like Houston, Atlanta. I probably will double down on White Sox against lefties.
Sure.
That lineup's looking a lot better. I see Yasmani Grandal, Mercedes in that lineup to really beef up the middle. Red Sox have just been really, really good to me this year. It's another plus spot. Because of how little we love pitching, there's going to be a lot of stacks that are viable. And like I said, that Texas game should be hot, and a bunch of no-namers could put up some big games. So I'm going to be there quite a bit as well.
All right, so a reminder, guys, we did split the show in 2 today, so they've already covered the early slate, but there is 4:00 games that are about to come online now. The clear top pitcher is going to be Tyler Glass now. Next one is going to be Joe Musgrove. He's going against the San Francisco Giants, who have a 3.3 implied run total. That is a bit of a disaster for them. And then Jose Berrios is going to be someone that the Awesemo projections are not turning cartwheels over, but they do get the great matchup against Detroit, which has just a 3.2 implied run total. Berrios, it's all going to come down to strikeouts. He's also 9,300 on DK. So getting to Musgrove for $200 cheaper, or Glasnow for $700 more is where the projections are kind of taking us on that one. You got your bomb detector ready?
Yeah, bomb detector loves Mitch Haniger, Alex Bregman, and then a couple White Sox up there. Andrew Vaughn, if you want to get different, and Yerman Mercedes. So those are a couple names, and Joey Gallo rounds out the top 5. So fun names up there. Not a bunch of Judges and Trouts today. It's a couple of unique names.
I'm going with Sal Pal, Salvador Perez, and Jorge Soler. He will be swinging from his heels, but we do have that 10 to 12 mile an hour breeze going out to left field in Kansas City. Lance Lynn usually good against righties, but if we're going to have some fun, those would be the 2 I would look to. We're going to get on out of here. Thank you, Gundacker, for doing the show with us today. We still have 3 more shows after us. Starting in 5 minutes, we have the MMA Live Before Lock. Then we have the NBA Deeper Dive, followed by NBA Live Before Lock. And then we're doing it all again tomorrow, 10 o'clock. You're going to get the NBA Strategy Show. Noon, you're going to get the MLB Live Before Lock, and then we're also going to have some NASCAR in there, along with a couple basketball shows as well. With that, gamers, good luck.